Hi, it's me again, Stormywriter, and what I'm going to do today is I'm going to talk about one of my favourite characters, and that would be Willow from Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Now, if you read my books, it's clear that Buffy heavily influences my writing. You've got a vampire slayer who's in love with a vampire, although in my book, genders are the other way around. You've even got the Drusilla-esque character in Marianne. It's very similar, very crazy, because of the way that she's been treated by the puppet master, who is essentially Angel. But one character that is very close to my heart for personal reasons and hasn't really found her way into the books is Willow. So why is Willow a personal favourite? I suppose in many ways Willow is a representation of me, which is maybe why I haven't put her in the book. I was the nerdy kid. I was never popular. But to those that did have me as a friend, then very soon that I was a loyal friend. And that is essentially what Willow is. Willow was never the hands-on character. She was the one that be left at home doing the research, maybe seen often as an underrated character, but without her research finding exactly what they want to find at exactly the right moment, then Buffy may not always have been the winner that she was. So that's one of the reasons why I love Willow. You know, she was a good friend. You know, yeah, she came across originally as a bit of a doormat, because she was kind of laid back and, you know, willing to help and things like that. But as the series got on, and this was the clever thing often about Buffy the Vampire Slayer, is the characters do have great story arcs and change wonderfully and not feel out of context. You know, she is loyal, and eventually the Scooby Gang realise that, you know, she is an important part of the group. She is the one that they turn to as well. Not only is she the one that has the computers and has the skills, she is the emotional support as well. She is the one that will kind of listen to people's problems, help them through it, and then go, right, let's get on with it. It's interesting that Willow is the one that Buffy will always go to about her Angel problems. And that makes them very, very close friends. So obviously, I've touched upon Willow as a computer geek. Another thing that's mirrored between me and Willow is witchcraft. I found Wiccan when I was about 15, 16, and now, more than half a lifetime later, without giving away my age, I'm still a follower of the Wiccan tradition. And so it was good to see witchcraft on the screen, but also done properly. I grew up on things like Sabrina the Teenage Witch, which in its way is lovely and camp, and it does kind of hint upon, you know, that whole concept of be careful what you wish for, or be careful what you spell because it might not be what you expect. It doesn't go into it in quite the same darkness as Buffy the Vampire Slayer did, and how it is with Willow. But for Willow especially, and for myself, it's about discovering and understanding the power within yourself. And like Willow, I spent many, many years reading, studying witchcraft and Wiccan and pagan traditions before I actually started to practice it. That's probably maybe the difference between, say, Giles and Willow. They're both studiers. They both like to read and understand. But Willow takes it that one step further. She also wants to be. Willow has something kind of deep and almost intuitive when it comes to her magic. Something that I took a long time to discover within myself. This then gave Willow the outlet to help more with the fight of vampires, demons, whatever Buffy may be facing at the time. It's interesting though when you do compare, like I said, Sabrina the Teenage Witch to Willow. They are essentially both teenage witches. But I think their position within the kind of daytime slot shows how they were ever going to be treated. Sabrina was in that kids' TV time, that tea time slot, where Buffy was after tea time. And it always felt like, at least when I was growing up, that any programmes were shown after tea time were more adult. I know obviously things like The Watershed was 9 o'clock, so really dark stuff wasn't happening until after then. But you had your tea, you stopped being a child, and you started watching adult programmes. So Buffy always felt more adult, and therefore Willow was always going to be treated more adult compared to Sabrina the Teenage Witch. Again, another comparison against Sabrina the Teenage Witch is, and you see this a lot with witches programs at the time, you've got films like Practical Magic and programs like Charmed, where it is inherited magic. They come from a long line of witches. Willow isn't. Willow is self-taught, and that's why she appealed to me more, because I was a self-taught witch. There was nobody there to guide me. There was nobody there to say, well, I know how to do this because my grandmother taught me to do this. It was taught by her grandmother, etc., etc., etc. For me, finding my witchcraft and finding my power was about finding my identity. For Willow, it becomes more about love. Not in a sappy sense, but her relationship with Tara helps her focus and harness her power. And that comes to another thing of why I identify with Willow. It's the queer identity. Now, I'm bisexual and have been probably for longer than I understood what that meant. So to have that representation was very, very interesting. We saw Willow not change, that's probably not the right word, but for many teenagers to adjust, to understand who they are. Willow did this in a very unashamed way. She really understood what it was to be in a lesbian relationship. They were a very open couple, Willow and Tara. They were in the front, they were the sideline character, they were one of the main characters, and they did not hide their relationship. They didn't say, well, they're a lesbian couple, but we don't see them being intimate. We saw them being intimate. Although it took a long time to see that first kiss, you still felt that there was an intimacy between the two, which is why it became such an important part when Tara's death happened, and that Willow's, who had kind of used, or maybe used is the wrong word, but had Tara to help her focus her power, with the loss of Tara became an explosion. You know, we all understand how grief can change us. And for Willow, they used the metaphor of Dark Willow. They used the power of the witchcraft to show how grief can change us. She became a person of sorting bloody vengeance, which was something that we would not have expected from that doormat-esque character that we saw in the first series of Buffy. What was great about that, though, was it showed how friendship can help us deal with grief. How no matter how much pain you're in, friends can bring you from the edge of destruction. But when you have tasted grief, you will never be the same person again. And I love the fact that they never made Willow ever that same timid, shy person, because she realised the power that she had within herself and how strong that power would be. Now, for many, Willow will always be the sidekick to Buffy. But she becomes more than that. She's a fully fleshed, fully realised character, to the extent that she's almost like a Robin to Batman. There's something about the two that make them a powerful force. And while Buffy, like Batman, can be without Robin, and something that makes them stronger with that particular sidekick. And for me, as someone who will never be the superhero, who's probably always destined to be the sidekick, what a greater sidekick to inspire to be than Willow. And so that's enough of me ranting. I hope you enjoyed that, and speak to you again soon.